I would say the month of February. It's every day that we need to embrace and to lift ourselves, because we have not just arrived in this country, and we have been out there through the sweat and the hard work and the celebration of the gains in this country as Black people. So we thank you for helping us to acknowledge and to uplift for the month of February. But as we do go on, I would say for us as Labour to also remind ourselves that for Black people, and I am highlighting for Black History Month, that if you have members who are Black members, they get to know them and get to find out what else they can do. And a lot of them have so much talent and experience out there that they can really strengthen the organization even more than just being dues paying members. So I just want to put that out there. And again, as we move into this month, into March month, we have a lot of things to do. We're quite busy, but two key areas that for you to focus on with International Women's Day. I hope, I know with the weekend coming up with us marching on the street, and for the last few years where everything, we were careful and not to be doing too much stuff. There's a virtual event that was going on, but hope to see you out on the street. Maybe there's more update will come, but Steelworker always, at the Steelworker Hall, they always have the Mary's breakfast. And if you can come, this is not just a lady event. We want to see the men out there coming out and showing that you're not just by women's side, but some of these women actually carry you. We are not just feeble women. We are strong and we take on the fight as well. So come out and let's celebrate, and not only celebrate, but to promise and to push this government that all the areas that women are struggling, their mothers, their sisters, their aunties, but we also have some of our indigenous sisters, families, the community that are still looking for their daughters and still looking for answers for their sisters. So we want to go out and send that message again, and to remind this government that we are not just here celebrating Women's Month, Women's Day, and that day that we march, but it's there to push and to send that message that we are going to continue this fight, whether it's around childcare, whether it's around all these rights that we line up every day, 365 days of the year, and to push for. We are making it a promise that we didn't forget, and we're not weak and we're not tired. We're going to continue that fight with you by our side. Then we are even stronger and we can get the job done faster. Another event that's coming up, again, it's the international. Sorry, let me get it right. So this is for International Day of Elimination of Racism and Discrimination. I hope within your organization you're having these conversations. For the Labor Council, we have this conversation within our board, and it's a small portion of it, but hoping that you are finding the opportunity to open these conversations. We, as I said, we are recovering out of the pandemic, but part of that, we remember George Floyd, and we remember a lot of us remind ourselves and pledge over that we are going to continue. We need to continue the conversation around anti-racism and discrimination and hate. And this is an opportunity for us to use this month to do a little bit more learning in how we take care of each other and having stronger laws in place. So I welcome, and I hope maybe the next meeting you're able to share some of what you've been doing out there within your organization and within your own community too. Thank you very much for allowing me to put that out there. And with that, I am going to call on Comrade Jinky for the harassment statement.
Good evening, comrades. This is our harassment statement. Mutual respect, cooperation, and understanding are strongly held principles of the trade union movement. We will neither condone nor tolerate harassing or discriminatory behavior that creates an intimidating, hostile, or offensive environment and undermines the dignity or self-esteem of any individual. An injury to one is an injury to all. Speech or conduct which is racist, sexist, homophobic, or discriminatory in any way is unacceptable to trade unions and only serves to divide us. Our policies and practices must reflect this commitment to equality as we work together for justice and dignity in our workplace, in our unions, and in our community. Back to you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. And I don't think Jeff is here yet. So, Susan, can I turn it over to you for the land acknowledgement?
Thank you. We acknowledge that we're meeting on the traditional territory of the Mississaugas of the New Credit, which was subject to the Dish with One Spoon Treaty between the Anishinaabe, Mississaugas, and the Haudenosaunee that bound them to share the territory and protect the land. Subsequent Indigenous nations and peoples, Europeans, and all newcomers have been invited into this treaty in the spirit of peace, friendship, and respect. And we know that this acknowledgement needs to be meaningful and ongoing. We need to incorporate work on acknowledging the land and the meaning behind that and reconciliation in what we do, including the recognition of the challenges, equal pay day, differential problems for Indigenous women, and in everything that we do. Thank you. Over to you, Madam President.
Thank you very much. Okay. And I'm not sure if I missed it already, but are you able to just to go over the Zoom function again for us, please, Susan?
Sure. So basic Zoom processes, we do ask you to keep yourself muted unless you're going to be speaking to reduce background noise and some of the echoing that can take place. Remember to, if you do have a question or a point of order, to raise your hand using the reaction function and the raise hand function. If you wave your hand on the screen or put up a waving hand or a thumbs up, we may not see you because you may be on a future page given the number of participants of delegates who are here tonight. Feel free to make use of the chat to share comments and ideas with others. And as always, if possible, if you can put your union at the end of your name on your name, that's helpful for people to know where you're coming from. Thanks for joining us.
Okay, thank you. And I want to make a quick announcement before I move on, just to let you know, let you know that we have a vacancy on our executive board, and just giving this is a formal notice that our next month meeting, we are going to call for nominations to fill that vacancy. So just keep in mind, I would say, anyone know Sister Comrade Vanessa Stobie, who was on our board and now has moved on to another position. We, strong board member of ours, and it's sad losing her, but I'm also happy as well knowing that she's going to another organization where the experience and the knowledge, she can spread that elsewhere and as we grow. So if Vanessa is on, I thank her for the time that she spent with the executive board, and we are again opening up for a new nomination for a new member to fill the spot. Thank you. Now I'm going to ask, as I always do, it's nice to make sure everyone feel welcome. If we have any first-time delegates here, if you're first-time delegates, you could use your hand signal and just to raise your hand and let us know which union you're from and your name. Is there any first-time delegate?
I don't see any hands raised.
Okay. All right. So, all right, thank you. So I guess everyone here, we're no stranger. It's all right. We can get down to business, and I would just to push you for the next month meeting when you're coming, take a look at your union's list and see if you have other delegates on your list that's not here, and please invite them to join you at the meeting. Then the minutes was sent, I believe, early on to your email, and I think it's also in the chat from our February 2nd meeting. Hopefully you got a chance to review that minute, and it's in the chat if you need to take a quick look at that. And so, did you say something, Susan? Sorry. Okay. And so I'm gonna ask for a motion to approve this minute.
I see
Thank
Justin Anthony and Carol Carpenter moving.
Thank you very much. Okay. Any errors or omission? Okay. Seeing none, we're going to put up the poll to vote. Okay. Do you support this motion? Yes, no, or abstain?
Comrades, 5 seconds left to vote. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and poll. Back to you, Madam President. We have
Thank you.
80.
It's carried. Okay, thank you. So I'll turn over to Comrade Gallant for the credential report.
Thank you, Madam President. Welcome, comrades, for tonight's delegate or credential report. It's Toronto Musicians Association 2 delegates and USA 8 delegates. And I should move. Can I get a seconder?
Okay.
Seconded.
Okay, thank you. And the poll is up.
Good evening, comrades. 5 seconds left to vote again. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and poll. Back to you, Madam President. We have a pass with 91%.
Thank you very much. Okay, and up for strike report. Any strike report, strike or lockout report? Anyone here to do a strike or lockout report? This is your time. Raise your hand.
I don't see any hands raised.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so I will move over to the report through the Women's Committee. Laura Thompson is the chair of the Labor Council Women's Committee. She will introduce our next set of speakers who will talk about International Women's Day and gender equity. So, a big thanks to the Women's Committee, I should say. Just 2 nights ago, I had their session, and I get I can't tell you the feedback, the positive feedback that we receive from that. So I just want to say thank you very much again to the Women's Committee for putting on the session 2 nights ago. So I'm going to turn over to Laura.
Okay, thank you, President Babington. Laura Thompson, OPSU Local 503, pronoun she, her. And also I want to acknowledge, thank you, Andrea, for the very kind comments you made about the discussion that will be hosted on Tuesday. And I also want to say thank you to Andrea for being a part of that discussion and being one of our panelists, and for her sharing so many really great insights and experiences. Yes, so it is International Women's Day season, I suppose. In terms of at a very exciting time after, you know, 2 years lost to pandemic. We are back out on the streets, as you know, continuing it's really exciting tradition that we have here in Toronto and the Greater Toronto Hamilton area. And then also the tradition we have of really great activists that continue to push for gender equity and social justice. And 2 of them are thankfully joining us tonight. 2 people who are very much people that we know, who have done really great work. So we are really excited to be introducing Peggy Nash. Peggy is a former MP, a former union negotiator, currently at Toronto Metropolitan University, and across the board, a well-known feminist activist and the author of Women Winning Office, an activist's guide to getting elected. Along with Peggy, we're also really excited to be welcoming Dolly Begum. Dolly is the Ontario NDP MPP for Scarborough Southwest. Dolly was elected to the Ontario Legislature in June 2018 and is the first Canadian of Bangladeshi origin to hold elected office at any level in Canada. Dolly was the chief coordinator of the province-wide Keep Hydro public campaign that successfully stopped the privatization of Toronto Hydro and Wasaga distribution. At Queen's Park, Dolly is the official opposition critic for citizenship, foreign credentials, and immigration services. So some really amazing activists, and yeah, very excited for their insights tonight.
I'll just note that MPP Dolly Begum is with us, but since the video hasn't been started, we're not able to profile her here. It's possible that it has since been, let me just double check here. Please give us a moment. You know how Zoom is. There we are. Thank you.
Hi, Dolly.
And so I think we're turning it over to Peggy and Dolly to talk to us about International Women's Day and the great event that we had the other night.
Okay, I guess I will kick it off. Good evening, comrades. It's wonderful to once again join women to join the Toronto Labour Council, Toronto and York Region Labour Council. I haven't been to a meeting for some time, so it's great to see you all again. And, you know, I was thinking back about International Women's Day, and one of my kids, who is in his 40s now, went to his first International Women's Day when he was a few months old. And I have a picture of him and I. He's in his stroller. And as so many young activists have gotten started being pushed in a stroller on International Women's Day at the event organized with Toronto and York Region Labour Council. But this event it's a global event. It's a global recognition, of course, that goes back way beyond my son and to the 19th century. And it really, you know, it again speaks to the role of the left and the labor movement in pushing for progressive change, because it was socialist parties and union organizers, would-be union members who pushed to recognize an International Day for Women. And this really became galvanized in New York City when there was a horrific fire of garment workers. Almost 150 people died, vast majority of them women, and they died because they were up on higher floors on this building sewing, making shirts, and the exits were locked to prevent them from supposedly pilfering, according to the employer. And this is a group of workers who the previous year had struck to try to form a union. So if they had a union, of course, we all know unions have fought for occupational health and safety, and this tragedy might have been prevented. So International Women's Day has pushed for occupational health and safety, generally for the rights of women, the right to vote, reproductive rights, an end to violence against women, and really kind of got a second breath of wind in the second wave of feminism in the 60s and 70s, with a huge focus on reproductive rights and equality at work. And of course, with third wave feminists really pushing for gender justice, a diversity of gender rights, and recognition and equal rights for racialized, Black, Indigenous, people of color to be recognized and get full rights, not just the rights of white women. So this is a long-standing, internationally recognized event. In some countries, it is a national holiday. We haven't quite got there yet. But we did have the opportunity to participate in a wonderful panel, as was said earlier. And I had the honor of moderating this panel of women who have done firsts. And of course, the president of Labor Council is the first Black woman to head up the largest labor council in the country. As you heard, MPP Dolly Begum is the first elected politician of Bangladeshi origin. And we also heard from Osma Malik, who's the first hijab-wearing politician to be elected. And we heard from Laura Walton, who's the first union leader to make Doug Ford back down in his unconstitutional attempt to ride roughshod over the rights of workers in collective bargaining. So it was an amazing panel. And these women who really are seen as trailblazers talked about how they came to the leadership positions that they hold and what motivated them, the energy and the emotion that really that really drove them to take a stand and fight back and become the leaders and the inspiration that they are today. And it was a wonderful event, and it closed on a wonderful note. And I'll turn it over to MPP Begum. But we had two questions from young women at the end, who were talking about the importance of having young women involved, and about the importance of mentors and role models like the amazing women on this panel. So I found it to be a very inspiring evening, and I want to thank President Babington and all those at Labor Council who organized this event. I think it was a real success. And with that, MPP Dolly Begum, over to you.
Thank you very much, Peggy. Hello, everyone. I think Peggy's done a wonderful job of recapping the entire event. It was a very, I would say, powerful, inspiring evening, and as usual, love seeing a lot of the members from the labor movement, organizing and being a part of the event, and being a part of the audience and asking questions as well as some of the young women, just where Peggy left off. The young women that joined, especially from the Women in the House program, where some of them actually came and to Parliament just a few days before that, and I had a chance for 3 of them to shadow me for the work that I do, and it goes to show the work that a lot of women like Peggy herself is doing to make sure that we encourage young women to be involved, especially in places like the political world where we have to have more women elected to office. So I just want to give a big shout out to Peggy Nash for her leadership in inspiring young women to be involved in politics, involved in our communities and being engaged. And to all you brothers and sisters in our labor movement, one of the things that I had a chance to do, chance to share on the other day was really about the way I got involved in politics. And even when I reflect on it, it's incredible because I think my beginning was in the labor movement. It was where, it was we were sitting in the OPSU building, and I remember talking about how that's where I started. And I just want to say that the labor movement itself, the labor movement in Ontario, has done enormous amount of work in inspiring and encouraging women across the board in becoming and in shaping who they are. And I think I salute all of you who work hard to make sure that there is that path that's been paved for women like myself, who never thought that they could ever, step into the legislature, let alone have a seat, have a green chair that's there with my name on it. Like I never even had that dream. But if it wasn't for the rallies that I got a chance to organize, to be able to speak in those protests, to be able to lead the movements that I did with my labor council friends, with OFL friends, with QP, OPSU, all of those organizations, society, one of the organizations that I was a part of, it was because of that I was able to do that. And I think that just goes to show the strength that we have within our labor movement. And as we look towards International Women's Day, I think it's one of those moments where we celebrate women and their leadership. And I know there are many here. I saw the message about Jen, and I think I see her on the screen as well. There is, all you incredible women who are part of the labor movement that do amazing work, that are, following the paths of some of the ones who have already done amazing work. And I when I was sitting on the panel, I was just sharing with the rest of them, because there's Andrea sitting on my left, who's just incredible, had just amazing stories to share and talk about how to inspire other women, and the hard work and dedication that goes behind becoming who you are. And then I had Asma Malik, and then Peggy Nash, and then on my right I had Laura Walton. And you couldn't get you couldn't get better than that. Like, this is amazing. And that's the strength that we have in our labor movement as well. That's the strength that we have that grows out of the progressive, and I'm going to say quote unquote progressive because I feel like we need to define that word. But the strength that we have in the democratic, the progressive movement that we have, because of our hard work and dedication. And I thank you all for that. I'm really looking forward to seeing many of you at the breakfast on Saturday. It is on Saturday. And then obviously after that, the event. So I thank you all. I don't know if how much of the event I should share. I feel like Peggy's done a great job of talking about it already. So I've taken enough time. So I'll stop here. I see Peter Tabbins on the screen. MPP Peter Tabbins here. He's always attended the Labor Council meetings, and actually he's the one who made sure that I started attending them as well. So the credit goes to him, and then I started attending them even before I was in before. So and I see John Cartwright on the screen as well. So hello everyone, and it's great to see you all, and thank you for organizing this. Really appreciate it. Appreciate being a part of the evening as well.
Yeah, thank you, Peggy. Thank you, Dolly, for being here with us tonight, for being here with us on Tuesday, and Peggy for guiding our conversation and being that guiding force, and Dolly along with Ozza Malik, Laura Walton, and Andrea Babington for again sharing your insights, your experiences. Obviously, this is a very exciting time. We talk about the push for gender justice. Also recognizing again, it's what was along with the insights, the experience, the conversation. What was great about Tuesday and reflecting on Tuesday is very much the feeling of community coming together, seeing some people we haven't seen for a while after 2 years or of a pandemic. So as we turn to Saturday, yes, because we talk about going on the streets, it's about mass action. It's about showing that we are a community, that we are a force collectively when it comes to gender equity, when it comes to social justice, but it's also about community. So as mentioned, the Mary Spratt breakfast will be happening Saturday, March 4th, this Saturday, 9 a.m. at the Steelworkers Hall, 25 Cecil Street. Tickets are $10. And also, so we had a discussion about Mary Spratt, because we always mention the International Women's Day annual Mary Spratt annual breakfast. But, you know, in terms of what is known of Mary Spratt, so we're just going to take a second to kind of give a bit of a bio in terms of Mary Spratt was a feminist and steelworker activist for more than 40 years. Mary Spratt is remembered as one of the true pioneers of the women's movement within the United Steelworkers, and one of a few female delegates at Steelworkers and the Ontario Federation of Labour conferences, and has long served to be a trailblazer within the United Steelworkers. So definitely, yeah, so hopefully that gives folks a bit of a feel for who the person on the left-hand corner is, and their contribution to steelworkers and labor. And yeah, so we do encourage folks to come to the breakfast. Tickets are $10. It's a really good, if memory serves, it's a really good stick to your ribs breakfast, and a great way to start off the rally the day. And then in that, we move to the International Women's Day rally in March, Women, Life, Freedom. So the rally will be at 11 a.m. at Oise, and the march will be starting at 1 p.m. And we have come together, and we're, like the labor movement, we are looking to come together in all their diversity, and we will be back in the streets stronger and more resilient than ever. The cost of living, fighting for our healthcare systems, showing solidarity with what women, girls, non-binary, and gender diverse people are experiencing in Iran, and with that as well, gender justice, racial justice, justice for Indigenous peoples, and really just coming together to find community as we continue the work of working towards a better world, a better city. And with that, Andrea Babington, turn it back to President Babington.
Thank you very much, Laura. And I also want to extend a big thank you to the Women's Committee, and Peggy and Dolly. I just want to say thank you very much for your contribution tonight. Also. And just to tap into what you're saying, and when, early on when I welcome everyone to this House of Labor, whether we are virtual or not, we do look at the different things that's happening within our workplace and in our community. And when we take these fights on, we some of our own stories is to talk about whether it's equal pay when it comes to women. When I door knock during election time, I'll find grandparents at the door who say it's not fair because they're still pushing for better even though we get to a place now where they're saying, okay, now look, we made a step in terms of childcare. It's still not enough, where grandparents still have to, instead of them looking welcoming and enjoying grandchildren, they're actually a third part of the caregiver when both parents have to work different shift or just struggling out there. It's not the same. And we're still hearing about violence against women, missing Indigenous women. Our fight continue. In this pandemic, we know for sure the impact when it comes to women, and a lot of them in the lower wage. And I just want to continue to encourage it, regardless of this. We can only break that trend when we step in and make changes ourselves. And I would encourage, in your own workplace, look for young women in the workplace. They might look quiet, but they have something to give to the labor movement. Sit and have a conversation, have a cup of coffee, and just to hear their own dream, their own their vision into the workplace, and what role they would want to play in the union. The more of us, the stronger we get. If you don't have a women's committee, go back and have a conversation about that. Maybe that's the start, to set up a women's committee, and another way to have strong women coming together to shape our organization into another great pathway for newcomers that will be coming into the workforce and the next generation. Pull the chair up for the young person, the young woman that coming into that workplace. Make sure you're not highballing and saying, okay, it's not your turn yet, you're too young for the idea. Pull that chair up and make sure that we're getting all these information together. We're stronger together. So I just want to chime that out. But again, hearing from Dolly, and I think a good time when we have Peter Tobin is also here for us to segue into the municipal election. At our last delegates meeting in February, we were talking about John Tory, who had taken away our democratic right. We were talking about that with and also with strong mayoralty power. We also talk a bit about the budget process that has changed to prevent meaningful community input. Between then and now, things change. We have had the bombshell drop that the mayor had a relationship with one of his former staffer, which he was working for him. We have seen him use his strong mayoral power to push through budget that harm working people, and we have seen his resignation. But that's not the end. This now means that we have a mayoralty by-election on our hand, and that's not too far away. This is coming up June 26th. We all know we have a lot of work to do between now and June 26th to get a mayor that reflects the value of working people and of this labor council and the entire labor movement. So tonight we have a guest here with us. We have invited Jen Hassam, Executive Director of the Broadbent Institute, to share a bit about her experience in organizing coalition of labor and progressive group in municipal election and in our mayoral campaign in particular. So Jen, just to give a little bit about Jen, Jen has been ED of Broadbent sorry.
It's okay, it hasn't been long, just a year and a half, just a year and a half.
All right, Jen. Okay, so I'm gonna turn over to you now, Jen. Sorry.
Hey, no problem, no problem. I can't, thank you so much for the warm welcome. And I just want to say, coming after that women's presentation, I'm feeling the energy. I used to live in Toronto. I'm going to miss the Mary Spratt breakfast, but don't anyone on this call, if you're in Toronto, miss that. It is good. I would bring my kids every year. And the other thing not to miss is Chris Smalls is going to be speaking next week with the OFL. And so that's something that we've done at the Broadband Institute. We have our big summit that's coming up in Ottawa, and we were bringing Chris Smalls to come and to speak in Ottawa, but we want to share him. So we're really happy that we were able to partner with people in Toronto so that we could send him on a flight to Toronto and have him not only speak and do that, but he's also going to be meeting with some inside warehouse workers as well. So kudos to Chris Smalls from the Amazon labor union, who's going to also be here. So 2 really amazing events coming up. So I was invited though to speak to you about municipal organizing and the Broadband Institute. I know many on the call. I've worked, as I'm seeing in the chat, I did work for the Ontario NDP as the Director of Communications. Oh, he's talking about our March 10th kickoff. Exactly, yeah. And I worked at USW, and I was the publisher of Press Progress. And so now in this role at the Broadband Institute, I'm looking to try and help in any way, shape, or form, help with coalition building, especially at the municipal level. And so what we did in Ottawa, and I know some of the people on the call know, is that Ottawa had never run, ever, in my generation at least, a progressive mayoral as well as ward citywide campaign before. So we're going from a place where the experience is 0. The number of votes that progressives got for the mayoral race previously was 0, to trying to run a full-on campaign against the entire political establishment in Ottawa. And folks, they did really well considering they were going from that baseline. And they did have some infrastructure. They worked with labor unions who were interested in being active, worked with Horizon Ottawa, which is very similar to Progress Toronto. There was also an environmental organization in Ottawa. There was Acorn Ottawa. And there were also a handful of existing progressive city councillors. And everybody together would meet and together did polling and sat in on focus groups and shared their information. Whether people were working electorally, explicitly to elect somebody, or whether they were working to do their own kind of advocacy. And that really, I think, helped shift the tone so that way it was across the board, no matter where you were positioning yourself, you were still talking about the same issues and you were still trying to advance a similar narrative. Where things fell short were that, it was the very first time that there was this effort. And so it is very difficult, and it was done a little bit later than other folks. The whole system was put together. And so you are right now at a very strong advantage with just coming out of a municipal round where people came together and you did eke out some really major wins at the ward level. And I think that when people work together and share their intelligence, their resources, and they're mobilizing, that really big things can happen. But you don't need me to say that. I'm sure people who have been around and were much closer in the David Miller first term campaign can recall that when David Miller launched his campaign, he was in some ways an unknown in the city, and he wasn't the leading front runner. And I remember him giving a speech at that Steelworkers Hall right before Labor Day, and because people came together and they worked really hard and they shared information, they shared resources, he peaked. He started to peak and became a front runner, and that collapsed and he became the unity candidate. So I think you could be in a similar kind of situation, and the Broadband Institute is here with you in offering any kinds of resources that we can. One of the ways in which we're trying to use our summit to do that is we're holding a one-day session for any municipal organizing organizations to come together and meet and to share details. And the Toronto by-election is #1 on the agenda. So it's going to feature One City Vancouver, Projet Montréal, Horizon Ottawa, and of course, Progress Toronto. And we're going to be joined by a specialist in the UK who thinks about suburban organizing. We're going to be featured, I believe Amber Morley is also going to join us to talk about her organizing in Etobicoke Lakeshore towards a win. And we're also going to be joined with some people from Projet Montréal who are going to talk about their organizing in racialized communities. So it's going to be a really good one-day session that we're hosting. And that's I hope that helps. If there's any kinds of questions, I'm happy to take questions, or also I'll stick around and I can chat in the chat.
Okay, thank you. Okay. I don't think I missed any hand. Thank you very much, Jen. Thank you for your work at the Broadbent, and thank you for your dedication to building a progressive society.
Thank you for your leadership. You get everyone fired up, Andrea. Like it for real. Thank you.
Thank you very much for coming. So we also we prepare a statement, and we are going to turn our attention to that statement, and the title of the statement is "This is our chance." We plan to set up the election planning committee, and we want to make sure that we are on the right track. And some of our election planning committee might be on tonight, but for sure, this is our pathway when we are getting ready for this election. Just before we do so, I want to say I know that that this is about the Toronto election, and some of you also represent only workers in York region. So I just want to keep that in mind. Or you represent a mixed group of members. It doesn't mean if you represent members only in York region that you're not a part of this, right? Every single one of you are relevant. This discussion is still relevant for you because it's about how we prepare our members for any kind of opportunity. This includes these kind of unscheduled chances like unexpected mayoral election or fight over Bill 28. So at this time, I'm gonna ask Skylar, I'll turn it over to Skylar to talk to us about what this statement mean and what our executive board is recommending. So I hope you got a chance to read through the statement as well. And hopefully after we can have a really good discussion or so. Skylar, over to you.
Thanks, Andrea. Thanks, Jen, for providing a little bit of context and some words of encouragement there about what we can do when we pull together. And you folks in this room have heard a lot from me in the last year about the work that our 2022 EPC has been able to accomplish. And I think the thing that first of all, like you don't need to hear from me about like what's at stake here. At the beginning of this meeting, people who joined late might not have seen this. We're going to put it up again in a little bit. We had a whiteboard up with places for people to put sticky notes on what they want to see from from the next Toronto mayor, for themselves and their family, for labor, and for community. And there was no shortage of ideas flying up onto that whiteboard. So and we're gonna put it up again in a bit. So if you want to add stuff, you certainly can. So we know what's at stake. It's about we talked about the budget vision in the last time. This is about public services in public hands. It's about a city that's clean and safe that we can use. It's about not having to wake up at 6 a.m. and click refresh a million times just to get that one recreation swim spot for your kid. It's all of those things we already know. And it's an opportunity we didn't think we were going to have. It's this like, I don't know, I like to think of this political opportunity window that kind of opens, and this is a rare one that has come up. And so we're just going to look quickly at what the recommendations are coming from the executive board. And so I just want to say one thing about the election planning committee. We're not restarting it, we're actually starting it fresh. A new election planning committee is being convened. It hasn't been fully established yet, but we kind of have gotten the ball rolling there. And so one of these recommendations, bullet 2 here, is to work together to determine what it is that we can do together. Where do we align, and what work can we accomplish when we focus on those shared goals. And I don't know where we're going to go with all of this, I can't say, but it's a huge opportunity for working people to shape the vision for the city that we want. So I think I'm going to leave it there. And I think there will probably be some folks that might want to speak to this. Back to you, Andrea.
All right. So I am going to open up for, okay, I see Ken. So I'm opening up the floor for debate on this statement. Ken, over to you.
Yeah, good evening, comrades. Ken Webb from the International Association of Firefighters in Toronto, local IFF local 3888. I've been involved on the municipal committee for, I'm guessing it's close to 6 years now. The last 2 elections, I've been on the election planning committee. The work that it does is driven by locals with questions that are brought forward regarding things that we would like to see in candidates, to see where candidates stand on a lot of different issues. This election, as Jen and Skylar both indicated, are a real opportunity for a change as far as a mayor is concerned. Real opportunity for a movement towards the left, and we have a lot of momentum on our sides. We were very successful in the last election with the candidates that were endorsed by the Labor Council. A lot of strong wins. It actually started before that with Mana Wong, work that was done on Mana Wong's election last year, or the year before, sorry. But it's going to take a lot of work and a lot of cooperation within the unions within Toronto to get their membership engaged, to make them help make them understand that this really is a real opportunity, and that there's a lot of momentum on our side. The nice thing is that we're already organized from the last election. We have the people and resources to vote and to canvass. We're in a really strong position. As Skylar indicated, the election planning committee will have to meet very shortly, because we're looking at a much more narrow window with respect to the election. We're looking at approximately 17 weeks versus the 5.5 months. So things are pretty condensed. Nominations will be opening on April 3rd. We had a heads of union meeting earlier this week, and some of the issues that were brought up or reinforced was the importance of the election. Brandon Hayes, who was the chair of our committee, indicated that it really is a once in a generation opportunity. It's a real opportunity to make Toronto more livable, and to have locals local membership from the city to elect its boss for the next 4 years. So we really encourage unions within the city of Toronto, as Andrea indicated, that there are members here, are unions represented from outside of the city, but to really start to think about getting membership engaged quickly. Ride on the momentum that's already there, and let's see what we can do.
Thank you very much. Over to you, David.
So David, QB79, I first want to congratulate everybody on the incredible election of so many progressive councillors just last year. That took an incredible amount of work, and it now is paying off by what we see on City Council is a brand new spirit there in terms of even how it stood up to the Tory majority when he had it in with his superpowers. So I just really want to congratulate everybody. I know for us from KP79, I'm a retiree now, but for us, it was a real campaign over years to say to our members, vote as if your job depends on it, because that was the slogan that got us to have their idea. Just as Ken said, well, for a number of workers in Toronto, we are electing the boss of a lot of public sector workers. And I must say, I was proud in CUPE that we were one of the first to come out in front of David Miller's campaign at the time, because at the time, it took a while initially for people to come out at first for David Miller's campaign, but it did make a difference that unions did come out in front and supported him. Now, I am going to say something that is going to drive some people crazy, but I just think it's this time. I think we need, because I'm worried myself in the number of candidates who are hemming and hawing and suggesting they're going to run, I do think we need to have a progressive nomination election first. We did this back in 1982. When Jack Layton first became councillor, he had to run against someone else for the nomination to run for city council downtown. We had a massive nomination meeting at city council. Buses came in with delegates from various downtown community organizations and voted in that nomination process. I think if mayoralty candidates want to run for Labor Council's affiliates and delegates support, they should, because I'm worried we're going to have, I potentially, and if other people know otherwise, I will back off. And you people who are in the know, people like Jen, people like my comrade John Cartwright and others who know who's running and who's not running, but I'm worried we're going to have people cancel each other out. So I'm just really suggesting for people to think that we do something completely different this time, to make sure we have one progressive candidate that is endorsed by our people. And it also builds it builds people before the actual vote in June. It builds momentum. It gets people excited. Anyways, you may think this is crazy and you may think it's just so much more work. But as this executive council statement says, we don't have time to lose. And we also have a one in a lifetime opportunity. The person who becomes mayor may stay as mayor for a period of time. I'm glad Jen talked about the positive things that have been going on in Ottawa, but she also didn't comment on the new mayor-elect in Ottawa is now engaging in privatization of many, many municipal services in the city of Ottawa. And that's going to be another campaign to stop that sell-off and privatization of those services. And so people are going to have to campaign into that now. So anyways, I know people may think I'm crazy, but I want us to consider that we have one candidate that we all support so we can move forward in the best way. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Any other speaker? Okay, if there's...
Angie,
Frank Bruno.
Okay, go ahead, Frank. Sorry, I missed your hand.
It's okay. Thank you very much. I agree with the previous speaker. I think what we need to do is get one progressive candidate to run for mayor, whoever we might agree that person to be, because the right wing, if I can call them that, they have several people running, so they can split their vote. But I think we should focus on getting one progressive candidate and put them against the Doug Ford supporters. That's what I think we should be focusing in on, and I hope we achieve it.
Okay, thank you, Frank. Okay, I'm just checking if anyone else. Oh, okay, that's you, Frank. I don't believe there's anyone else, so I'm gonna ask first to vote on this statement.
Comrades, we have 5 seconds left to vote. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And poll. Back to you, Madam President. We have a 96% of yes.
Thank you very much, Cindy. Okay. All right, so we have more exciting things on the agenda tonight. We're going to get back to the municipal election in April. For the next coming days, we'll be talking about that. I'm sure you'll be talking more about that within your own union, and at our April meeting, we'll be back again. But now we want to talk about political organizing and gear up for the June 26th election. That's very important, that we are doing the organizing work and not just waiting for the date. We also need to continue casting our mind to union organizing. You start that conversation, I believe, in January. So, so that the issue we are going to turn to next. One, I don't know if you're aware, but I hope so, especially when we already start the conversation around union organizing. Our union density in Canada is now at 31%, and that means only 1 worker out of 3 has the benefit of a union, and our labor movement is not getting stronger. We are losing density. A big chunk of the industry that are unionized are the public sector. We need to continue to build our movement by expanding and including those who are not unionized. So, we are here with tonight. Tonight we are here with a guest that's going to speak to us about that, and that's his name is Justin Panos. He's the organizing director for ATU Canada, and Justin will speak to us about what ATU is doing to organize more members and what we need to do as a movement to grow and to expand. Justin, welcome, and I'm going to turn over to you.
Hey, thanks for the floor, President Babington, and thanks everyone. I'm really excited to be here. Thanks to all the great delegates and Aleem Thorani from the union. So really grateful to be here and to acknowledge Black History Month. Tip the hat to Stanley Grizzle, union organizer for the Sleeping Car Porters, and in honor of International Women's Day, Madeleine Perrin, a great union organizer. Google their names if you've never heard of them. Print out their bios, pass them around. So I'm the organizing director at the ATU, both in Canada and in the US at the international side as well. So I get to, what that means is I get to oversee dozens of campaigns on both sides of the border, particularly labor board votes, right? Running car drives and doing labor board votes. So, in my view, just in general, seeing both sides of the border, new organizing is too small and too few and too invisible. So I'm excited to be part of this discussion. This is kind of where it starts, and just getting on the agenda at our union meetings is where it needs to start. It's the key really to going on the offensive in the labor movement. And as was said before, building out the base of the labor movement, right? So that we can win these big political fights. There's no question in the last year, there's been a surge of new organizing, Amazon, Starbucks, etc. But, you know, in my view, we're not feeling it up here in Canada. You know, when I looked at the Ontario Labor Relations Board websites, it's hard to find anything with stats on union organizing, but you dig around, you find a report there in the back. And in the last 5 years, you know, compared starting in 2017 till 2022, in 2017 there were 650 certification applications at the labor board in 2017, 2018. In 21, 22 is 475. So it's down 175 applications per year. Most of that's in the construction sector. Half of it's in construction and half spread out among the other industries. That's important. Construction's super important. Every sector is important, but it's declining and we're not doing as much. Why is that? Why is it down? Why are we not seeing the surge in this country? Why, for example, why is Starbucks, the surge there, not on this side of the border? I don't know. I don't have the answers, but what I do want to talk about is why we must tackle the crisis of new organizing and where we should start. That's really what I wanted to do tonight, to spur some discussion. New organizing, in my view, it's stimulating a rebellion to push back against the boss. And let's call it what it is. The workplace is a dictatorship. Every worker should have a union because unions are about democracy. And unorganized workers do not have democracy at their workplaces. And people go their whole lives without democracy on the job. And I don't think there's anything positive about having so many management dictatorships in our society. And while, you know, initiatives like the minimum wage reform, 10 paid sick days, these political fights, legislative fights, these are important. We should give everything we've got to win them. But they're not going to fundamentally challenge that dictatorship at work. Only new organizing can do that. Only new organizing can push back against control in the workplace. Because, you know, the two most important clauses of a collective agreement in my mind is just cause. And you don't have that anywhere except a collective agreement. And you know, the left must do this work. Really, truly progressives, the left, the only ones really with the spirit, the courage, and the good vibes to take up this challenge. So I want to use what the ATU has done, not to brag or exaggerate our successes, because there's still a long way to go, but as an example, and just how we got it going. And the model really was, let's make something out of nothing. We hadn't organized anything really in about a decade in Canada, except for a few local initiatives. Local 113 was doing the work, but there, you know, across the country, most locals, there was no plan, there was no staff to do it. And so, you know, leadership at ATU Canada, John Danino, ATU International, decided to make something happen. And so what they did was they hired an organizing director. They created that position, someone dedicated to new organizing. You know, if you're in a role, a staff, or you're a member, and you've got a lot on your plates, new organizing will get relegated. It's an unfortunate fact of life. Someone's got to be someone's job to do it. And then we got some experience. We found staff that had run labor board elections, how to do it, all the pitfalls, what to expect, what the boss is going to do, how you do applications. That's critical. Just getting that expertise is critical. And third, we just started somewhere. We didn't think, okay, we're going to go take on the biggest employer. We just started somewhere. And what we did was we pulled out a file of a past campaign that failed. We had photographs of the cards, pictures of the cards, the good tip. And we started calling people. And sure enough, people said, yeah, we've been waiting for you to call us back. And sure enough, we got the campaign started and we won 2 votes to 1. Second reruns, always, the stats hold, always do better. But, you know, we just started with a couple shops, 22 people, 25 people, you know, small commuter bus units in the big cities. And then from there, you know, did a couple, got the ball rolling, got some energy, got some wins, people were feeling good. And then sure enough, the next set of units we did were 35, 36, 40. They started to get bigger. And then the following year, we started doing triple digits, you know, units now in the triple digits, and so on. And so really, we just got started, got the energy going, and we saw more and more success. And we went from doing just none to, you know, one every couple months to one every other month, and so on. And now I think in the last 3 years, we've filed it for an election in every single province, which is really exciting. I haven't won them all, but you know, you learn and you just keep developing. So pretty exciting there. So some other things we did, we promoted it internally. And this is really important, to promote these things internally. We had town halls about new organizing and just figured out where people were at. Did they have some targets? Did they want to do it? Did they have experience? And we just promoted internally. We made a list of our wins. This is something I think that's easy to do, and you can promote it. And we just keep a roster of tally on both sides of the border. And that really ups the profile, because you show people the list and they say, how do I get on that? What do I got to do to get on that? Hey, I've got this shop I want to organize. Hey, my kid's school bus, it was talking to the driver, they want to unionize, and so on. And so I'm going to put the list in the chat. And I thought it was updated. At the top should be 85 transit workers in Calgary, Alberta, just within our system that didn't have a union. That's another place to start. Look around your shops where there are unorganized people and bring them in. I would say start there. Just increase the density around your locals, around your shop, or adjacent to it, or anything like that. That's kind of where we started. So we kind of like really just upped the profile of it, and I think that was super important. Some other things that we did, we bring members into campaigns, and this is really important. Members can relate, they can talk to each other. It's different than talking to union workers. So there is a technique to the conversation that's important. But like any job, it's an apprentice, and you spend time with people, and the more you spend time on it, the more comfortable you get. And now we pull members out of locals to go over to another place and get involved. And that not only stimulates the labor movement in general, but they go back to their own local and they bring that energy back. And that's super important. So, you know, really stimulating rebellions against bosses, and that in turn will make the locals stronger internally. So, you know, by way of closing, I just want to suggest some things. I know there's some breakout groups and some discussion topics, but, you know, some things to chew on and to think through is, you know, labor councils. The Chicago Labor Council, for instance, about 100 years ago, they looked around and they said, oh my gosh, there's all these packing house workers that aren't organized. And it was actually the Chicago Labor Council that got members off from different unions, raised money, and mounted a massive campaign that organized thousands of workers. And that became a pillar of the United Food and Commercial Workers, UFCW, the Chicago Packing House campaign. So, you know, by way of closing and just some discussion topics, I think that there's a few things. It's like, where can we get the training to do this? I don't see, across Canada, I don't see the training. I know the BC Fed has that, and I think more trainings, like how can we just get more trainings for people who want to do this, dedicated to new organizing? Some other things is, how can you build a profile within your own union and just get the profile of new organizing up, get it on the agenda, get people talking about it. And what hesitations might you face? It's always good to hear from people overcoming that kind of question. So with that, you know, that's just what we did, the discussions we had, and how we just got the ball rolling on new organizing. So I'd like to thank President Babington and her team, for having me in this invite. All the delegates, very humbled to be here, and thanks again.
Thank you very much. Thank you for coming, and thank you for joining us. And with that, I'm going to turn over to Susan, and I also want to ask of you with this kind of discussion that we're having. The more of us, it's better. As once we go into the small group, just to encourage everyone to stay on. So Susan, over to you.
Thanks very much. And Justin's points were really, really helpful for the breakout groups that we're going to go into. As Andrea said, we recognize that it's getting a little bit late. We're going to go into breakout groups for 11, 12 minutes. It's really important that we follow up on the discussions that we had at the January meeting. The first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to ask Labor Council Executive Board meetings. I'm also going to look at an email that they received at 4:32 this afternoon, and I'm going to ask Yolanda Badesi and Frank Bruno if they can check their emails as well. Because in each breakout group, we do want someone who is going to be able to steer the conversation a little bit. So really quickly, in January, we talked about ideas for bringing more workers into the labor movement. So we weren't talking about what your union was doing. We were talking in general, how can we bring more workers into the labor movement so they're covered by collective agreements? You shared ideas such as the need to have strategies for unionizing non-traditional workplaces, gig workplaces, fractured workplaces, things like that. About evaluating who is strong and who really needs the help. You talked about cooperating across unions to get the most appropriate union to do the organizing. You talked about making sure that our organizing uses equitable practices so that we're walking the talk and we're reaching out to communities who need to be reached out to. Linking struggles and youth connections. Realizing that even within unions, that with internal organizing, union members can engage with new members and more. So thank you for those ideas. This month, we want to shift gears a bit to think about how each of our own unions is handling these opportunities and challenges. So I'm just going to put a slide up here with the question on for tonight. We know that union density makes a difference in the ability for workers in any sector to bargain decent collective agreements. It also strengthens the labor movement. It makes us all more powerful. So the question we want you to talk about, and this is not expected to be the last of these discussions, so we're not trying to solve all the problems tonight, but how can your union help raise unionization levels in Ontario? And the folks who I've just mentioned, the executive board members and others, have got some sub-questions to help you think about that. Whether you're in a sector that looks like it's fully organized already, or whether you're in a sector that doesn't have much density. I said 12 to 14 minutes there, 11 minutes. There's no report back required. Your contributions will be gathered by our executive board members. And we'll also put the question into the chat. If someone on our team could just punch that question in there. Anyway, it's pretty straightforward. How can your union help raise unionization levels in Ontario? And now we're going to send you all off to your breakout rooms. 11 minutes, you'll get the 60-second warning. Thanks, have a great discussion. Oh, Skylar.
Please check if you are an executive board member or just anyone who you think you might be tapped on the shoulder to help us tonight. Can you please have a quick look in the chat to see if I've DM'd you? Chances are that I have. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, here we go.
All right, so I think everybody coming back. Yeah, coming back, but so far I'm hearing a little bit of a grumbling here that it wasn't enough time, and so I think we're getting approval for it. Unfortunately we don't have enough time to really share, but even for the next meeting, right now you can put in the chat. Let us know your thoughts as to the breakout group. How you find it and ideas of what else that you think we need to do for the next step. But this is crucial when we're looking at organizing within our own union to grow. We're losing density. We can share with each other what need to be done, some of your own experience in terms of organizing and political organizing. How do we organize our members? I know the bad part of last year where we walk away wondering what else could we have done during the provincial election and wondering who voted or who didn't. Then this is also helpful for us to really think through when you're getting ready for any kind of a vote, including the election, how you can mobilize, what kind of conversation that need to happen to get your members out and voting. And it's similar to you when you're looking at growing density. What are the conversations that need to happen? And if you have members in the union already, how can you use that kind of a strength, the knowledge they have, and use them to help to go out and have conversation with the others that are not in the union, not organized, so that they can help to bring them in. It's not often when you're bringing in new members, the idea that you're helping those workers. You're really, if you're unionized, you're helping yourself too. Because the more non-union out there, it's the more your employer looking at ways to weaken what you have and look at the ones up the street that don't have what you have. Are they trying to compete just to give them some of what you get in your own contract that they don't have to organize? So the more we can organize, the better. So we know we need to, and we have to organize the ones that already in our union and pay dues, because just because you pay dues don't mean you're organized. So we still have overall work to do there. So thank you. And Susan, any last word on this, the breakout group?
No, we're going to be asking executive board members and others who facilitated. Sorry, I wonder if people could mute themselves. My voice seems to be echoing. Okay, maybe my colleagues can do that. No, I think, Andrea, it's over to James to tell us about Christian Smalls and the March 10th event that the Toronto and York Region Labour Council is co-sponsoring with the Ontario Federation of Labour, York Federation of Students, Gig Workers United, and Workers for Justice.
Thanks, Susan, and thanks everybody for making time on the agenda for this introduction. And I think the discussion we just had is actually a really good segue into this event that's going to be happening on Friday, March 10th, because we want to hear from Chris about what they did in New York to organize the thousands of workers who led this successful drive to organize Amazon workers, one of those sectors that all of us are looking at where it's a very precarious workforce, a massively profitable multinational, and we're trying to figure out how do we organize. So this conversation we're having tonight, I think, flows really well into the discussion about the event. So as Andrea was introducing earlier and as Susan introduced, the event is going to kick off the Toronto and York region launch of the Enough is Enough campaign. And as many of you know, the Enough is Enough campaign is the OFL's cost of living campaign, or campaign to confront Ontario's worsening cost of living crisis. You can see all the demands there. I won't get into all of them because I think we've discussed those before. But what we're hoping to do on Friday, March 10th is have a really high profile, really exciting dynamic event for Toronto and York region where we kick off the campaign officially in Toronto in the GTA. And so Chris is going to be speaking. He'll be the main speaker of the event. Andrea is going to give the formal introduction and welcome Chris to Toronto. It's Chris's first visit to Canada and first visit to Toronto. And the format of the event, Chris is going to speak for maybe 7 to 10 minutes at the beginning to give some opening remarks, but then we're going to move into a fireside chat where it'll be co-facilitated with Ahmed Gaid, who's the Secretary Treasurer of the OFL, and with Adesi Mbalaja, who is the President of the York Federation of Students. And so we think that is going to be a more interactive way to engage Chris, to hear questions from the audience and participants, including many of you, and to hear what the story was. How did they organize? How are they continuing to organize? What kind of relationship does the Amazon Labor Union have to other struggles in the United States, workers who are trying to organize in Starbucks, Walmart, other sectors that are underrepresented or where there's not the same level of organization. So we're really excited about the event, and just in terms of how everybody can build it, I'm going to drop in the chat in just a moment the RSVP where you can share that. It's the RSVP link for the event. It's on the OFL website, and you need to RSVP to have an electronic ticket. It's an in-person event, 500 people. We're hoping to get there. We have an overflow room if we need it. So please share that around, and maybe as I wrap up here, I'll drop in the chat the links to the PDF and the JPEG of the material so you can share those. And it's all over socials, so look for that on your social media. And I can let you know on Monday, Chris is going to be posting a video on his socials where he's going to be making a pitch to people in Toronto to come hear him speak on Friday, March 10th. So those are all the resources. We're really excited to be organizing this with the Labor Council and all the other partners. And just wanted to thank Andrea and Susan and the executive and all of you for everything that you've been doing to help promote the event. And we'll see you at York University 1 week from tomorrow.
Thank you very much. I mute myself. Okay, I hope to see you all there, and I'm going to move on to the correspondent report. Over to you, Abdi.
Good evening, comrades. Tonight we have two correspondents. The first one is request from Comrade Miguel Lima and Comrade Dominique Pelissimo for a donation towards a United May Day Committee event being held on Saturday, April 29. Last year's donation was $100. The executive board recommends a donation of $100. I so move it. Can I have a seconder?
Second.
Yeah.
Well,
Second.
we all said about the same thing.
Comrades, 5 seconds left to vote on the correspondence. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and poll.
Thank you.
Thank you, comrades. Our second correspondence is request from ACON, Association of Community Organizations for Reform Now, for donation of $2,000 to help send Toronto ACON leaders to ACON's National Leadership School. The previous time we supported ACON Toronto was $500 in December 2020 towards a movie screening. The executive board recommends a donation of $200. I so move it. Can I have seconder?
Second.
Thank you, Richard and Carl Carpenter.
Comrades, 5 seconds left to vote to support ACORN. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and poll. Back to you, Brother Abdi. We have a yes for 94%.
Thank you, comrades. That concludes the correspondence for tonight. Back to you, Madam President.
Thank you very much. And for the CLC report, over to you, Felicia.
Thanks so much, President Andrea. All right, good evening, Labor Council fam. So tonight is going to be a short report. And I'm sure if you all went to the rally today, you're tired. I know I am, so I'll be quick. So we are marking, as we already talked about, International Women's Day, and the Canadian Labour Congress will be showcasing through our new powerful social media campaign that union women are stronger than ever. So we have developed a series of shareables and engaging calls to action to be a gender justice champion at work so that we can spotlight how so much of what we have accomplished is a direct result of union women working together to push for change. And online, we're going to be sharing stories about how sector by sector, workplace by workplace, in our communities and on the national stage, union women have organized to win. And we will continue to be a driving force for progress in workplaces and in society. We'll be launching our campaign this week leading up to March 8th, and we invite you to join us by amplifying our social media messages and supporting us to build momentum and excitement about celebrating women's rights and gender equity at work. And it's not going to be over this month. We're going to be carrying this theme over to the CLC convention in May. Make sure you sign up by highlighting examples of union women in all of their diversity, mobilizing and winning together. So we're still collecting stories and examples of work your organizations, your locals and members have done. So we're encouraging you to send any names of fabulous women that you know within your organizations, within your unions, who ought to be recognized. And you'll send them to billinart at br@clcctc.ca. If you have a person to recommend, I'm going to put that in the chat after. If I do it now, I'm going to lose my notes. So we'll keep going. The next thing I'd like to share with you is that Labor College applications are open until April 16th. I will also put that link in the chat. If you've never done Labor College through the Canadian Labor Congress, it's really good. It's an intense course. I'm an alumni from that. Look what I've done since then. I did it back in 2012. So it's really good. And I have to say, it's gotten cheaper over the years, which is very interesting. So sign up if you can. I'll put the link in the chat for more information. Lobby Day on February 7th was a great success. We're hoping to replicate that here in our local regions in Ontario. So we're looking to labor councils to help connect with various MPs within our region in order to set up meetings and talk about the issues that matter to us. And the good thing is, you're not doing this on your own. The CLC will provide you with the template email to request a meeting, a phone script, a video on how to lobby, backgrounder documents, and brief notes. So you're not on your own. You just have to read the notes. We can do it with you. I'm always here to help you if you like. So please look out for that. We're going to be doing that more this month. And it's coming up quick. We've been talking about it for a while, but convention's coming up. The credential deadline is April 6th. That's next month. We're already in March. So please get on that if you plan to attend. And finally, Bill C-35, the early learning bill, passed second reading, is being referred to committee. Yay, that's a big deal. And so basically the early learning and childcare legislation includes key principles long advocated for by labor and childcare advocates, including affordability, inclusion, high quality and accessibility, and the need for flexible services that meet diverse needs of children and families. So we want to see that passed and make sure that we have quality early childcare. And I guess the last thing I do want to highlight is that the Ontario Health Coalition, they are planning to hold a referendum on public health care in June. And the lead up to that, they have a ton of information on their website of how you can become a Medicare defender and really fight back against Ford and what they're trying to do to our public healthcare system. I will also put that in the chat right now. And that's it for my report. I told you it's short and sweet. It's 9:25. You don't want anything more than this. Back to you, President Andrea. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Thank you very much. So we're going to move on to the council's report. Any report from LCS?
Yeah, I have not a lot to report, but only two things. Number one is the LCAT program, Labor Community Advocate Training Program registration is open. I know some of you or many of you have taken the course. It's a very interesting course. It's a course where you can actually, get more activists to your own local. So we were talking the whole night how we need more activists for organizing, for political campaigns. So this is a good way to start, and we are here to give you. So the registration is still open. March 22nd is the course begin. Please send your members and register the course, and they really they can benefit a lot personally, for personal capacity building and for the growth of the organization. So the second thing I want to share with you is that the Bromley Armstrong Award is June 14. The nomination forms will be sent soon, sometime next week, to you guys. So please, look inside your union and find that one person that does all the hard work of equity work in your union. So, and nominate the person. So we will really be very happy if you can really meet the deadline and then have somebody nominated to that very, very nice and interesting event, the Bromley Armstrong Gala. And also, we also give an award for union. So the first and the last two went to the OSSTF local 16 York region, and also SEAU. So any union who really thinks they deserve the third award from the union for doing equity work, please nominate yourself and send to the equity committee. And the Bromley Award is in June 14. I know, people have commented it's short before the election. Life will be always busy, but equity work will not stop and should never stop. So we will continue doing that. Please nominate yourself, your union, or somebody from the union, and then send to the equity committee. Thank you very much. The forms will be sent shortly.
Thank you.
Andrea, I see Judith has her hand up.
Okay, Judith, go ahead.
Hi there. I want to echo Faduma's words. I went through the LCAT program, all 3 levels. And I encourage that the more people that we can get through that program, the more that we can spread our labor message and be able to support workers day in and day out. And they don't necessarily have to be elected officials. Rank and file union members can talk one-on-one with their peers, and I highly recommend it. The facilitator is awesome. And each class provides hope and inspiration, and it's a very safe space in order to learn and in order to experience what others are experiencing with broader union movement. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Any other report for Council Labor Education Center?
They're not present tonight.
Okay, so we'll move on and open up to the committee report. Equity Committee, I don't know if Women's Committee have any more. Education Committee.
Thank you, Andrea. I'm Keith Menezes, local 9197 USW, and speaking on behalf of the Equity Committee, I would like to inform you that the IVOC conference that was scheduled to happen in late June has now been postponed to early fall due to the municipal elections. A new date for the conference will be announced sometime in May. I would also like to echo what Faduma said. The Bromley Armstrong Awards presentation will be held on June 14th, 2023 as per schedule, and the nominations for these awards will be open from March 6th to April 14th. The awards are in 2 categories. First, for individual excellence, and the other for union excellence. For nomination eligibility and criteria, please visit the Labor Community Services website. I think Skylar would put that on shortly. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. All right. Any more committee report? I'm going to open up for union report. Okay, any union report, please? Okay, I see Jeff.
Thank you, President Babington. This isn't really a report of my union. I apologize, and I ask for indulgence of the floor. But I met a comrade Saturday down at Queens Park with ACTRA, and that the fact that they're still out on strike and nobody talks about it. So I'm going to give a brief report on that, if I can beg your indulgence. The organizer representing advertising agencies, the ICA, walked away from its collective agreement it holds with ACTRA, the National Commercial Agreement, NCA, in May 2022. For many members, the issues were hard to understand. All they knew was that they were out of work. And unfortunately, that has continued for 10 long months, yet we don't hear about this. The Coles notes are the employer walked away from the table, locked them out of their contract, and took ACTRA to the Ontario Labour Relations Board, aiming to have the status as an organized labor union removed. What they're asking of us to do and what I'm asking of you to do, and I'm probably wading into some internal union politics, I don't care. There's people out on strike for 10 months and we're not hearing about it, is follow at lockdown actors on Instagram, search Labor Start ACTRA and find the online petition hosted by www.laborstartcampaigns.com. Join 6,500 other fellow systems who have called for an end to this illegal strike. We need to get behind our comrades in the movement. We're talking about organizing, the strength of being in a union. Let's see what we can do to help these delegates to the Labor Council. ACTRA has people that come out to our meetings. Thank you for your time, and let's see what we can do to help end this ridiculous strike that's dragged on.
Okay, thank you. And yes, so just to remind you, there's good information. If you haven't already done so, please go to the chat and there's a link that you can transfer over and take a look at them, but very important based on all the different discussion tonight, including Jeff's report. Any other union report? Okay, so I don't see anything else, and I just want to say with that, you know, I'm going to call for us to wrap up this meeting, but just to let you know, as I mentioned, with this month charging ahead fast this afternoon, and I know before that we've been, some of you already participating in some of the rallies out there. Enough is Enough campaign and the Ontario Nurses Association rallies that's been happening. This afternoon, one rally happened up from the Sheraton Center and then march up to Queen's Park, and large turnout for that, was well represented. So, you know, just let us continue taking on, whether it's standing up in solidarity or sending that strong message. After the education union fight, I think something awoken in a lot of us that wasn't sure what we wanted to do. This pandemic was dragging us down, and it gave us another reason to just ignite and get out there. Don't let that fire out, right? Let's continue it. You know, we got that pathway open and there's a lot of fire on the ground. Let us keep moving, and let us, whether, you know, what Jeff said, let's get some more information and let's continue. I know before the education union fight, we were going out to some of these action for ACTRA, and then wasn't sure what was happening again. And we got to make sure that everyone is getting the support and standing strong and sending the message. So, you know, have a good night. I see Bill Signal, your hand is up.
Yeah, sisters and brothers, we need to get together physically. We can't just have these Zoom meetings. A 3-minute talk here on a chat is not enough. We have lots of discussions that take place. I think it's time, and I asked the president, time to have our call our meetings, physical meetings, wherever you're going to have it. It's enough for the Zoom meetings. That's my point of view, and I've talked to my union, and they can't stand Zoom meetings. We got rid of them a long time ago in Local 46. Thank you.
Okay, Susan, can you update Brother Signal what happened to the survey prior?
Yes, thank you. Yeah, we had a survey earlier this year, and it was pretty clear that very few people wanted to return to in-person meetings immediately. There was a bit of an appetite to return to in-person meetings later on this spring, which seemed to be like May or June. And at that time, it does appear that people wanted a hybrid option so that for health reasons or accessibility reasons that they would be able to join virtually. And it does look like over half of people who would attend virtually. So the executive board will be considering those survey results and returning with a decision about a return to at least hybrid meetings in the near future. Thanks very much.
Sister McMurray, I just want to comment. We can't have an organizing drive on a Zoom meeting or a picket line on a Zoom meeting. And it's time to physically get together and be a union and talk about things. After this closing tonight, I miss all the sisters and brothers that are here, and I won't be able to say hello to any of them or comment about what was discussed tonight. And that's why I want the physical meetings back. I'm sorry I never even got an invite for that survey. So thank you.
Okay, I apologize for that. That happened at our delegates meeting. Maybe you was absent for that one. Over to you, Dave.
Yes, with regard to how we hold our meetings, I can see a value in being able to do this virtually. I can point out that I work in the entertainment industry, and guess what? Most people go out to be entertained in the evening times, which is when we work. So it's almost like there's one strike against us in our industry if we are entirely in person. I mean, I can arrange my time somewhat better than some other people, but with a lot of members, once I'm not doing this and there's another labor delegate, they can run into that problem. And then there's going to be less attendance from us participating in the labor movement. So I would encourage that we have some kind of hybrid form which could assist us on that. Thank you.
Noted. Thank you. Okay, so you heard. It's noted, and I'm going to say for Bill, we heard you as well, and all of this is LT discussion. It moves us to maybe for other delegates that's trying to figure out when is the right time and what we got to do. So we'll test the water again, and then we still have to think about how we do both the hybrid version. So since this pandemic, we have delegates that wasn't able to attend any meeting, and we welcome them, and we are looking for ways how we can get back in person and still not lose the others that came on because of this reason. So yeah, so as I was saying before we wrap up, thank you for staying on. And Bill, you just don't know how to say goodbye, but that's all right. Just the call right now on the ground, we have owner that's taking on this government, and we want to make sure that the Labor Council do put out communication on what's happening. And this afternoon, there was large turnout, amazing seeing unions out there and some of our politicians out there speaking and pushing back at Doug Ford, who didn't even want them to be out there on the lawn at Queen's Park. So we got work to do, and we have to continue standing. Let's just energize, take the energy from each other. This government is watching us, and it's not a one-time fight that we took on a few months ago. This is time. We're ready, and I think we need to check in with each other and just keep moving and kicking ass. Bargaining is going to continue. Collective agreement is going to continue to expire. We can't keep going to all those tables and say, freeze. We have to figure out how we're going to take the fight on with the support of each other at our back and beside us. So I just want to say thank you very much for staying on, and have a wonderful evening. If you have to go anywhere tomorrow, stay safe and stay warm, and good night. And as usual, we send you off with
tomorrow. Are you a leader or will you follow? Are you a fighter or will you cower? It's our time to take back the power. What's your plan for tomorrow? Are you a leader or will you follow? Are you a fighter or will you cower? It's our time to take back the power. What you gonna do when they show up in black suits on your street in army boots? And there's silence here. What you gonna say when they strip your rights away and the tax man makes you pay for every bit of sweat you bled today? We don't need you running high. We judge is so unjust, and the jury must discuss. Say you don't look like one of us. We're gonna turn. Now the court has been adjourned, and the lessons that you've learned are not as many as the prison burn. We don't need to run and hide. We won't be pushed off to the side. What's your plan for tomorrow? Are you a leader or will you follow? Are you a fighter or will you cower? It's our time to take back the power. What's your plan for tomorrow? Are you a leader or will you follow? Are you a fighter or will you cower? It's our time to take back the power. What's your plan for tomorrow? Are you a leader or will you follow? Are you a fighter or will you cower? It's our time to take back the power. What's your plan for tomorrow? Are you a